Okay, friends. See, all of us have been teaching theory subjects and conducting practicals in the laboratory. So, we want to know to what extent your lecture has been effective, or to what extent your students have understood the concepts in the classroom, or they have, learned the skill part in the practicals. So we have certain, issues for which we want information. Let me share those issues for which we want some authentic information, and that information, those issues are: firstly, how realistic are my teaching plans for the particular group of students? You know that in a classroom there are variety of students sitting in the sitting. Some students are slow learners. Some students, they learn when something is taught, something is told to them. Some learners learn best when something is shown to them. Some learners learn best when they are involved in discussion, and so on. So it means we want, as a teacher, I want to know the effectiveness of, or realistic nature of my lecture plan. Likewise, uh, I want to know how can I make groups of students for more effective learning, or to what extent are students ready for the next learning experience. You see that as a teacher, when you enter the class, you need to know whether the student possess certain prerequisites to begin with the new lecture. So you ask few questions. Okay. Likewise, to what extent are students attaining the minimum essentials of the course? To what extent are the students progressing beyond the minimum essentials? Or at what stage in a lecture should I conduct the review? Or what types of learning difficulties are the students encountering in the classroom? Which students are underachievers? Which students have poor self-understanding? Which students should be referred to counseling, special classes, remedial programs? And above all, how effective was my teaching? So, for this, as a teacher, I need to conduct student evaluation. So, this session is about student evaluation. So, this indicates how much a student has learned and what subsequent instruction should emphasize. Because through evaluation, you obtain various types of information, and based upon the information, as a teacher, you make certain decisions. Okay, at what stage should I take a new lecture? At say, by looking at the faces of the students, you have seen that their faces are dull and they are not giving their attention. It means your lecture was not very much effective. It is simply, you are simply putting the information or pouring the information into the minds of your student. You are not drawing their attention. You are not involving. You are not, say, integrating some media to gain the attention of the students. So uh, we conduct measurement and evaluation. So teachers have been using measurement, test, scoring, assessment, and evaluation interchangeably. Actually, the meaning is different. Let me make the distinction between these components clearly. Firstly, measurement. Measurement is concerned with how much. Okay, so how much, that is the quantitative description of a person's performance. So it is the process of obtaining a numerical description of the degree to which an individual possesses a particular characteristic, or I would say attribute. A measurement of student performance is, say, 45 out of 50 correct mathematics problem. That Ramesh got 45 out of 50. But this doesn't indicate the quality aspect of his performance, whether his work was neat. So measurement is concerned with only the quantitative description. That is, it provides the student's strengths and weaknesses. That is, answers the question, that is how much. Here, through measurement, we are not determining the worth. Now, coming to the test. Test, I would say, connote the presentation of a standard set of questions to be answered by the students. Or you can say it is an instrument or systematic procedure that is used for measuring a sample of behavior. So, test can be developed by the classroom teacher. It can be developed by, say, uh, the professional test developers, or uh, produced by publishing companies in case of certain psychological tests, the or management tests. These are developed by test developers. Now, coming to scoring. Scoring again is the procedure of assigning a numerical value to the assessment task, that is scoring. There is one more term, that is assessment. Assessment means collecting information for the purpose of decision making on issues related to person being assessed. Or you can say assessment uh, is uh, I would say strategic problem solving process that uses measurement as one of the means of systematic collection and analysis of information for making various decisions in all aspects of instruction. So it includes both the quantitative, that is the test scores, and the qualitative, where we maintain the anecdotal records of behavior, that is the non-measurement things also, for making decisions. Okay. And now the concept of evaluation. Although the term measurement is often used in close conjunction with evaluation, but the two terms are not used interchangeably, cannot be used interchangeably. Why? Because the concept of evaluation is much more comprehensive, much more inclusive than the concept of measurement, because evaluation involves value judgment. That is, measurement is concerned with how much, and evaluation is concerned with how well. It is, when I say uh, Mr. Ramesh most recent mathematics score was 95% correct, so he is making good progress in mathematics. So it can be either the quantitative or the qualitative appraisal of a student performance. So it means it includes the value judgment also. It is the process of determining the worth of something in relation to established benchmarks using assessment. Now, what is established benchmark? These are the learning outcome that we want, that the student should be able to define force. Then the content related to that learning outcome is assessed. Okay, whether he has defined correctly as per the instruction of the teacher or not. Then it is the process of providing information for decision making. It's a systematic process. Actually, the why I say systematic process, because evaluation begins with formulating learning outcome. So based on the learning outcome, students are provided with appropriate learning experiences. Then the corresponding you see question mapping with learning outcome is asked. Say we want the student should be able to define force, then the question should be define force, and not what is force, or what do you mean by force, or what do you know about force. Because what is force, what do you mean by force, or what do you know about force, these are measuring something different. Our learning outcome is that he should be able to define force. So in order to enhance the validity and reliability, there should be a mapping between the learning outcome and the statement of the question. So it is systematic process. Why? Because evaluation begins with formulating learning outcome. So it answers the question, how well did we do and how much did we do? That is both the quantitative and the qualitative aspects. Now, purpose of evaluation is basically to obtain information. Information or to provide information in regard to the extent to which a student has achieved a mastery over a set of learning tasks included in a course. So we want to compare the performance of student against the stated learning outcome. Okay. Or secondly, we can also compare the sorry, you can compare these uh, achievement of one student against the learning outcome. You can compare the achievement of one student with the achievement of another student. It provides information to the teacher regarding the adequacy of methods of instruction. Say the teacher has been employing only lecture mode of imparting instruction, and while giving instruction, teacher has noticed that the students are inattentive. They are not you see, responding to the teacher's question, or they are looking here and there. So it means the method of teaching which the teacher has been employing, that is the lecture. Basically, lecture is a I would say chalk and talk or talk and talk method only. Because when the teacher employs only one way communication lecture, where he delivers the instruction, he provides information from his notes, he pours the information into the mind of the student. So if the teacher is sensible, he would definitely look to it, and maybe next time he can employ the blended learning, where he is giving some input through online mode. You see, many videos are available on YouTube. Even a teacher can record his own video with the help of his own mobile phone. So some illustration, some process can be shown through video, and then the teacher needs to prepare for the lecture. Teacher should not be dependent upon his lecture notes only. So he can bring certain PowerPoint where main points are written, rest of the points or bullets are to be elaborated. So in this way, the teacher can see the effectiveness of you see, employing blended learning. Maybe he can opt for flipped classroom. I think some of you might be familiar with the concept of flipped classroom. Flipped classroom is the reverse of traditional teaching, where in traditional teaching, you see, we provide input in the classroom and give the assignment to the student to do at home. Now, flipped classroom is the reverse of this one. That is, we have developed e-content. Maybe certain videos are available, or he has recorded his video. So e-content and videos are to be given to the student in advance to study at home. And when they come to the class, actual problem solving will be carried out. So in the classroom, teacher will not provide input. He will simply supplement certain you see, he can uh, clarify their doubts. And the homework which is given in a traditional classroom to be performed at home, it is to be performed at the class, in the class, where the students can perform in groups. So he through evaluation, the teacher gets information. It provides information to teacher for taking instructional decisions related to planning for teaching, grouping of students, learning, diagnosing learning difficulties, or providing counseling and guidance to the student. Students, through evaluation, students get information regarding the nature and level of their performance, and the same information can be used for instructional administration, like say grouping of student, placement of student, or maybe promotion of student, or maybe providing in-service training to the teacher. Say the teacher has been using the teacher has been teaching a particular subject and his results are not up to the mark. So maybe there's a need to provide training to the teacher in that particular subject. Or maybe sometimes the media is not available or facilities are not available. So because of paucity of inadequate availability of the facilities, the students performance is low. So through evaluation we get information so that we can procure. Now coming to the types of evaluation. So teaching in a classroom involves three stages. Firstly, to know about the prerequisites of the students. Second, you want to monitor the learning progress during class. And thirdly, before leaving the classroom, the teacher wants to know to what extent students have understood his concept. So based upon the three stages in teaching, there are three types of evaluation: placement evaluation, formative evaluation, summative evaluation. In addition, there is one more type of evaluation that is called as diagnostic evaluation. The purpose is to study the to or diagnose the persistent or recurring learning difficulties that are left unresolved during teaching learning in the classroom. So for that, the teacher can use certain corrective prescriptions of so certain diagnostic test or observation techniques can be used. So firstly, it is the placement evaluation. Role is to know whether the students are ready to receive a new lecture. Okay, for example, as a teacher you want to take up a lecture on laws of inertia. Now, before that, you want to ensure that students possess requisite knowledge in regard to concept of rest, concept of motion, and concept of force. Only then they will be able to understand the concept of inertia. So what you do, you enter the class and you ask a few questions. What you do, you keep an object on the table and ask the student, what is the position of this object? Definitely they will say, sir, it is at rest. You can switch on the fan. Now, another question, what is the position of this fan? It is in motion. Wonderful. Say you are sitting in a, now this object is at rest. How can we put into motion? Definitely they will say by pushing or by pulling, that is by applying some force, this object can be put into motion. Okay. Suppose you are sitting in a moving bus and the driver suddenly applies brakes. What happens? They say, sir, we go forward. And what happens when the driver suddenly starts the bus? We go backward. Why are these due to? Now the students are curious to know. So because they have already gone through all these things, then you say that these are due to laws of inertia. So today in this session we will learn laws of inertia. So my friends, never begin your lecture by saying today my lecture is this, today I will teach this, today I will discuss. This is the wrong method of introducing your lecture. So you need to create a situation. Okay. Now that situation demands the presentation of new input. So placement evaluation means whether the student possess the requisite knowledge skill that is needed to begin the planned instruction, or to what extent the student has already gone through those outcomes of the planned instruction, and to what extent the students' interest, work habits, personality characteristics are different for different modes of instruction. You see, as a teacher, you need to know you need to understand your learners. Learners have got different learning styles. Some students I have already told, some students learn best when something is shown to them. Some students learn best when something is you see is discussed in the classroom, when they are involved. So as a teacher, you need to know their personality, you need to know their work habits or learning styles or their interest. So all these tests are available. or maybe the aptitude test, maybe the pre-test on course objective. For example, मैंने अभी आपको दिया laws of inertia. For that you ask question regarding rest, motion and force. So learning style test is available online. It is by Solomon. So you go to web and find index of learning style. So there are 44 statements, and you can identify your own learning style. So problem lies when the teacher is not meeting the requirements of the average learner sitting in the classroom, because they are mixed. So if the student learns best when something is shown and the teacher has not given any illustration, he has not shown any picture, so that student will be in a difficult situation. So this is the placement evaluation. Then comes the formative evaluation. Now it means you are starting the lecture. The purpose is to monitor the learning progress during instruction. During instruction, you ask few questions pertaining to the various aspects of your lecture. The purpose is to improve the process. How you can improve? You see, you have asked one or two questions, the students' responses are not appropriate, so it means there is a need to make some change or changes in your subsequent instruction. Maybe you need to integrate some media, maybe you need to give more examples to you see supplement what you have already told. So evaluation of a student learning during a course, uh, mastery test for each unit of instruction, laboratory, workshop, field work. So on the basis of formative evaluation, instruction can be modified to best meet the needs of the learners. Teacher can, you see, review the content matter. He can also review his own presentation, and he can also determine which portion requires further elaboration, which portion requires further discussion, or where you need to give certain examples. Then comes the summative evaluation. Uh, this tells whether the whether and how much the students have learned at the end of a lecture. You see, in the forenoon session, we were talking about internal sessionals, and many of you said that in your college you are conducting, say, two or three sessional tests. That is nothing but formative evaluation. End semester examination is called as summative evaluation. Now in a classroom, we ask few questions at the start of a lecture, that is placement evaluation. We ask few questions during lecture, that is formative evaluation, and before leaving the classroom, we want few questions pertaining to the entire topic, that is called as summative evaluation. So these three types of evaluation can be, you see, used in a classroom, it can be used in a semester. So summative evaluation is the type of evaluation which is used at the end of a term, of a lecture, course, program. Purpose is to grade the student, to certify the student, or to evaluate the progress of the student. And based upon this data, through summative evaluation, many researchers can be carried out about the impact of curriculum, or the course of study, or the impact or effectiveness of the educational plan. So for this, we can conduct criterion reference testing, where the purpose is to compare the performance of one student against the stated learning outcome. मैंने learning outcome बोला, what is learning outcome? It is a sentence or statement which describes what the learner will be able to do at the end of a unit of instruction. Okay, so you can also conduct norm reference testing, where you are comparing the performance of one student against the performance of another student, maybe in the same class, or maybe in other college under the same technical university, or under the same technical education board. You are comparing the performance of the student. And in addition, there is one more type of evaluation called as diagnostic evaluation. The purpose is to diagnose the persistent or recurring. So you through this one, you provide remedial instruction to the student, or maybe some students are referred to certain counselors or guide for giving them some, you see, uh, help. Now coming to the process of evaluation. As I told you, the evaluation process begins with formulating learning outcomes. That is what the students will be able to do at the end of a lecture. Now, after stating the learning outcome, you need to know what they should already know before uh, coming on these learning outcomes. So, pre-test. Then you need to develop appropriate learning experiences for reaching the learning outcomes of the lecture which you have already formulated at the plan. Then you need to prepare a question paper, or you need to select an appropriate technique of evaluation for measuring to what extent the students have achieved the learning outcomes. And finally, you have got the result. So you will use the results to make certain decision. Evaluation means to make certain decision for making certain changes in subsequent instruction. Let me explain the process as a cyclical process, including 4 phases. One is the preparation phase, second is the assessment phase, third one is the evaluation phase, fourth one is the reflection phase. So the evaluation process involves the teacher as a decision maker during all the 4 phases. So preparation phase, it is concerned with when and how to obtain needed information. So it means here the decisions are made about identification of what to evaluate, whether you want to evaluate the knowledge aspect of student performance, or the skill aspect, or the attitude, that is their behavior. So first of all, you need to identify. Secondly, you need to select the type of evaluation, that is at which stage of your teaching you want information: placement, formative, summative, diagnostic. Then the criteria of evaluation against which the student learning outcome will be judged, and the most appropriate assessment strategy you have to select with which to collect the information on student progress. So decisions made during this phase form the basis for planning during the remaining 3 phases. The second phase is the assessment phase. So now you identify the information gathering, you see strategies. You need to construct a test or select these tests, administer to the student, and finally collect the information on student learning progress. So here determination of where, when, and how assessment will be conducted are very important considerations. Now the third phase is the evaluation phase. Now during this phase, the information which you have collected in the earlier phase, that is the assessment phase, will be used to make judgments about the student progress. So during this phase, you will use the information which you have collected during assessment phase. So based upon the judgment, the teacher will make decision about student learning program, and you will report the information to the students, their parents, and appropriate institutional uh, uh, personnel, maybe HOD, maybe curriculum developer, maybe the head of the institution, maybe the university, maybe the board, etc. The fourth phase is the reflection phase. So this phase will allow you to uh, ponder the successes and shortfalls of the previous phases. So specifically, you evaluate the utility and appropriateness of the assessment strategies you have used. You will make decision concerning improvements or modification to, you see, subsequent teaching and assessment. So whether it is placement evaluation, it is formative evaluation or diagnostic evaluation, all these involve these four phases, that is preparation phase, assessment phase, evaluation phase, and reflection phase. Most of the time we do not we ignore the reflection phase. That is, we don't make decision based upon the information which we have collected. Now coming to the basic principles of evaluation. uh, as a teacher, you need to know the purpose of your evaluation, because effectiveness of evaluation depends upon this thing only. So clearly specify the purpose. It The purpose of evaluation should precede the selection of evaluation. Only then you will go for selection of device. Then you will you see consider about what to evaluate, whether knowledge, behavior, psychomotor. You want to evaluate sources of learning outcome, you want to evaluate levels of learning outcome, teaching learning strategies, or you want to the impact of the media on the achievement of these students. And then you need to identify the models of evaluation. That is, you need to select an evaluation technique, because many techniques of evaluation are available. Each technique has its own advantages and disadvantages. So it will be incorrect to select a single technique of evaluation to measure students' varied learning abilities. So as a teacher, you need to use a mix of various techniques of evaluation. So you need to know, is one particular technique the most effective method for measuring learning? So you can select the evaluation technique in terms of its relevance, in terms of its objectivity, accuracy, reliability, validity, and so on. Then the comprehensive evaluation requires a variety of evaluation techniques. मैंने अभी बोला, no single type of instrument or test can assess the varied learning abilities of the students. For example, uh, objective type test. These are quite useful for, you see, measuring knowledge, understanding, and application outcomes. Okay. Essay type tests are used to measure students' ability to organize and express ideas. Observational techniques can be used to assess students' performance skill, how they are performing, how they are behaving in the classroom. Likewise, there are self-report inventories, like you want to know the interest of your learners, you want to know their attitude, so you can administer interest inventory or attitude uh, scale. So a complete picture of student achievement and development requires combining the results of different techniques of evaluation. Another principle is that proper use of evaluation techniques requires an awareness of their limitation. You see, evaluation techniques, they range from highly developed techniques like a standardized test, which has got high reliability, high validity. So evaluation technique range from highly developed to crude assessment device. Crude means that observational technique, self-report, because these are not these do not provide highly reliable and valid result, but you want to know the behavior aspect. Okay, so these yield results that are subject to various types of measurement error, maybe sampling error. You see, achievement test may not adequately sample a particular domain of content. That is, achievement test is has not you have not included the you have not given the due representation to the entire content in the achievement test. So sampling error, chance factor, when you are asking the student to attempt any 5 out of 8 question. So guessing on objective type item, sometimes subjective scoring on essay item. When I say discuss the properties of lubricants, okay, so this is highly global question, highly subjective. And as my friend Dr. Singh, that is of in English, he said that we never give students complete full marks, because you see there are many things they want to see. So inconsistent responding on self-report instruments. So this is another, or incorrect interpretation of measurement. So these are certain limitations, and then you need to provide immediate feedback, constructive feedback, informative feedback. Now, in our institute, what we do, we are offering Master of Engineering program, which are affiliated with Punjab University, Chandigarh. So, question paper is provided by the university. The answer sheets are checked by the class teacher. Okay. After checking the answer sheets are given to the students in a classroom. They are asked to study their go through the marks given to various questions. Now, the if the student is satisfied, he writes on the answer sheet that I am satisfied, I have seen it, and he will sign. In case the student is not satisfied, he goes to the teacher. Sir, uh, I have attempted this question also, so there you have not given any mark, or maybe the mark given to a particular question are very less. I have written everything. Okay, so in case the teacher is convinced, he can modify. If the teacher doesn't you see make any change, then the student you see reports to the HOD forms a committee, and then the final evaluation is carried out. So there is no re-evaluation in the university, so we ensure complete transparency. So this is the pattern which we are following. So we have to provide feedback to the students immediately, and uh, continuous evaluation means you need to devise a criteria of internal evaluation. That is, say there will be 3 sessional tests. We will take the contribution of best 2 sessionals. uh, इतनी उसकी वेटेज होगी. देयर विल बी a weightage of 2 marks on, say 5 marks on the attendance, 5 marks on the assignment, or maybe 5 marks on the question asked during the class, maybe like that. So that criteria must, so you need to uh, go for a continuous evaluation scheme. Now coming to methods of interpreting the results. Firstly, criterion reference testing. The purpose is to compare the performance of one student against the stated learning outcomes. It means we are not comparing the students against students. We are comparing the student against the learning outcome. The particular learning outcome, यानी उसकी competency he has developed or not. So, describing student performance in terms of a clearly defined and delimited domain of learning tasks is criterion reference testing. So student performance is assessed against a set of predetermined, and based on a predetermined set of criteria, we provide grades, say A grade to 90% and up, 80% to 89.99% we give B, and so. like that. So the arguments in favor of criterion reference test evaluation and against. So we have uh, in favor, it sets minimum performance expectation. Uh, the demonstrate what students can and cannot do in relation to important content area. Some arguments are against criterion reference evaluation. It says that sometimes it is not uh, easy to know just where to set boundary conditions, or lack of comparison data with other students or with other students in other institution. Then comes norm reference testing. It is comparing the performance of one student against the performance of another student, maybe in the same classroom, maybe in other college under this umbrella of same technical university or same board of technical education. So we form norms based upon their gender, okay, based upon their marks. So student performance is assessed relative to other students. So based upon the assumptions of standard normal distribution, and this is followed when the class size is more than 30. So we follow the normal probability curve. That is, only top 10% of the student would get A grade, next 20% student get B grade, central 40 C grade, next 20% D grade, and bottom 10% F grade. Now you see, in good IITs, the F bottom 10%, these are not the students who have failed. Okay, they have got maybe 60% marks, maybe 65% mark, but as a rule you are giving them F grade. Okay, so again this has got arguments in favor and against. So ensures a spread between top and bottom of the class for clear grade setting. It shows student performance relative to the group. In a group with great performance, you see some will be ensured an F grade. Top and bottom performances can sometimes be very close. So it dispenses with absolute criteria for performance. And another is that being above average doesn't necessarily imply that you will get A performance. Now coming to the characteristics of a good evaluation tool. Firstly, it is the validity. Validity is concerned with appropriateness of test scores. I say a test is valid if it measures what it is supposed to measure. What it is supposed to measure means what is the learning outcome and what is the corresponding question. If the learning outcome is that he will be able to define force, then the corresponding question should be define force and not what is force. What do you know about force? What do you mean by force? So मैंने बोला a test is valid if it measures what it is supposed to measure. So validity can be ensured by giving adequate coverage of the content in the question paper. What does it mean? Means all the topics covered in the syllabi of a subject must find place in the question paper. Second is, validity can be ensured when we test all aspects of cognitive ability. According to Bloom, the cognitive domain has got 6 levels. As you know, at the lowest level is remembering. Remembering means factual information, recalling factual information. Then next higher in the hierarchy is understanding. This is regarding concept. Next is applying. Applying means principle. Then comes analyzing, evaluating, creating. All these involve problem solving, which involve use of more than 2 principles. So friends, as you know, each discipline consists of factual information. Example can be say symbol of sodium, SI unit of force, name one sulfide or of copper. If I say define force, all these are to be rote memorized. No understanding is involved. So at the lower state is remembering, that is recall of factual information, where no understanding is involved. Then comes understanding. Understanding means that is when you are able to construct a concept. Now, what is a concept? Concept is one which has a referent, that is, which can be shown, which can be pointed out. For example, concept of table, concept of chair. These are concrete concepts. You can show, you can point out. Concept of force, concept of inertia. These are abstract concepts. These need to be defined. So concept learning is evident when a student is able to explain in his or her own words, when he or she is able to give examples, when he or she is able to interpret or extrapolate, etc. So all these come under understanding. Now coming to applying, where we uh, uh, enable the student to learn the principle. Now what is a principle? We say F is equal to M into A. Now F is a concept, force is a concept, equality is a concept, mass is a concept, acceleration is a concept. So what is a principle? It is one which involves a combination of more than one concept in a fixed relationship. So concept learning, principle learning or rule learning is evident when a student is able to apply these rules in a given situation, maybe in daily life or in a word of work. Then higher than application involves analyzing, evaluating, creating. So these involve problem solving on the part of the learner. That is, ability to solve problem involves ability to analyze, ability to evaluate and create. So my friends, evaluation is valid when we are able to include items which measure all ability levels. Then the validity can be ensured when the question conveys the intention of the paper setter. Appropriate verbs or words need to be used by the paper setter. मैंने कल एग्जाम्पल दिया था. If I ask, what are Newton's laws of motion? Now you see there is lot which can go into it. Either you can write the statement of each of the three laws. You can explain each of the three laws with one example or two example. But your intentions are not clear to the students. So the intention of this paper setter will be clear to the student when the question is rephrased as describe each of three Newton's laws of motion with one example. Or when I say explain with a neat sketch the working principle of carburetor of an IC engine. When I say give any three differences between covalent and covalent and electrovalent compounds. So the questions set in the question paper must convey the intentions of the paper setter. And as I already told while discussing the principles of evaluation, you need to use various kinds of items. Short answer question, multiple choice question, analogy reasoning question, maybe a long answer question pertaining to restricted response essay question. So when we say a test provides valid results, only when it includes large variety of questions or item. मैंने पहले बोला था that each technique of evaluation or each type of test has its own advantages and disadvantages. So it will be incorrect to use a single type of item for measuring various aspects of student learning abilities. And items need to cater to individual differences among learners. So difficulty level. Good evaluation generates maximum individual differences, maybe between 0.4 to zero point 0.6 difficulty level. Means the question is so difficult that only 40% could answer. Question is easy that 60% could answer. So you need to ensure the content validity. Now let us have a look at the factors which can lower the validity of your question paper. One is ambiguity in the statement, when you are not giving complete direction to the student, when your intentions are not clear to the student. आप सोचते हो कि भी implied है कि बच्चे को ये लिखना है. No, you have to make clear, you have to write precise instruction in the statement of the question. Now, or the item is not properly made, or item is arranged poorly in a question paper. For example, the first question paper, the first question is very difficult. स्टूडेंट ने उसको देखा ही एकदम से उसका हार्ट फेल होने वाला. सो दीज शुड बी अरेंज फ्रॉम सिंपल टू डिफिकल्ट. शुरू में सिंपल क्वेश्चन हो, इजी क्वेश्चन हो, जैसे आप कह रहे हो मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चन आपने डाले, दे आर इजी टू आंसर और शॉर्ट आंसर क्वेश्चन. धीरे धीरे जो एक्सटेंट ऑफ डिफिकल्टी यू कैन इंक्रीज. और in case of true false or multiple choice question, you have arranged items like the first question answer of first question is A, second is B, third is C, fourth is D, fifth is again A, then B. So student would start following a definite response pattern, so that will lower the validity. Validity is low when the question pertaining to untaught syllabi are included, when you are using very difficult vocabulary, or some students they are indulge in cheating, and those students are not checked. So that is these are the factors. Now coming to the reliability aspect. Reliability refers to consistency of results from one measurement to another measurement. A measurement of consistency obtained by the same person either when re-examined with the same test on different occasion. जैसे मैंने आज टेस्ट दिया और दोपहर को बाद फिर टेस्ट दे दिया, दोनों occasion में he has obtained the same score. Or if the same answer sheet is marked by two different teachers, the answer sheet must carry almost same marks. There could be a difference of 1 or 2 marks, but the difference should never be the significant. तो ये पॉसिबल तभी होगा when the question contains precise language, you have given complete instructions. So more consistent the result, lesser would be the measurement error and greater would be the reliability. And what are the factors which you need to consider in order to, you see, enhance the reliability of your question paper? One is you see the length of the test. Okay, in journal I would say the longer the test, the higher would be its reliability. This is because a longer test means a test containing more number of items, not that the student has to attempt any 5 out of it. He has to attempt at least 20 to 25 questions in a question paper. So maybe some questions are of 1 or 2 marks, some questions are of 3 to 4 marks, some questions are 5, or some 1 or 2 questions are of 10 marks each. This is because a longer test will provide a more adequate sample of behavior being measured, and the scores are apt to be less distorted by chance factor such as guessing. मैं उदाहरण लेता हूँ. As an English teacher, you want to measure the spelling ability of your students. And if you ask student to spell one word, now either you will have perfect spellers or complete failures. And if the word is difficult, most students would fail. And if the word is easy, most students appear to be perfect. So the fact that one word provides an unreliable estimate of a student's spelling ability is very much obvious. On the other hand, scores based on a large number of spelling words are more apt to reflect real differences in spelling ability, so they are more stable. So by increasing the size of the sample of spelling behavior, we can increase the consistency of our measure. Second factor is that the difficulty of the test. वो मैंने validity में भी explain किया था. Difficulty means the tests that are too easy. तो students के marks कैसे आएंगे? 98, 97, 96, 94. If the test is very difficult, students mark would be 55, 54, 53. Now consistency means अगर दूसरी बार वो attempt करेगा या उसकी आंसर शीट दूसरा टीचर अटेम्प्ट करेगा, the student may not maintain his or her relative position. सेकेंड अटेम्प्ट में उसके मार्क्स डिफरेंट आएंगे. मे बी जो टॉपर है उसका जो सेकेंड पोजीशन पे आ गया या थर्ड पोजीशन पे आ गया, एंड सो ऑन, बिकॉज स्प्रेड ऑफ स्कोर जो है इज minimum in that way. So adequate difficulty, maybe you can follow normal probability curve. Say 10% questions should be of very difficult in nature, 10 to 15. 10 to 15% should be of very easy in nature, and remaining 70 to 80% should pertain to average difficulty level. So in this way you will be able to maintain the consistency of results. Objectivity of scoring. You have given the marking scheme for the individual part of a question. You have used the words. When I say define force, name one sulfide or ore of copper, explain any three methods of determining hardness, temporary hardness of water, any three method. So आपने स्कोप भी दे दिया, आपने नेचर ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स जो वो भी इंडिकेट कर दिया. सो इन दिस वे यू विल बी, देन यूजेबिलिटी, ईज ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन होना चाहिए, टाइम फैक्टर सबके लिए सेम होना चाहिए, एंड सो ऑन. नाउ लेट अस हैव ए लुक एट various techniques of evaluation. So I'll give you an overview of various techniques of evaluation. Firstly, we'll talk about the written test, closed book. We'll have both tests, written test, closed book. Written test, you see open book also. So these days we are using open book examination also. Essay type test. When we say open-ended, when I say I can give examples of you see open-ended question also. For example, when I say write a scientific evaluation of a Copernican theory of the solar system. Explain how poverty can be removed in India. Critically evaluate the admission criteria in the technical institutions of your state. Describe the applications of law of supply and demand in the real world. So it's highly global, highly open-ended. Now the student doesn't know where to begin, what to include, and where to end. highly open-ended. There is no restriction on students with regard to the length of the response or the style of the response. The advantage is that you can test the ability of student to analyze, synthesize, and evaluate. You are giving them opportunity to express their ideas. You are also encouraging creativity. You are also assessing their argumentative skills. But at the same time consuming. बच्चे अब बाहर आके कहते हैं क्वेश्चन पेपर वाज वेरी लेंथी. देयर इज सब्जेक्टिविटी इन स्कोरिंग. एक ही आंसर क्वेश्चन को दो टीचर evaluate करेंगे. They will evaluate according to their own criteria. So this will result into low reliability, and you are also not giving adequate coverage to the complete syllabi, and this will favor the verbally fluent जो फटाफट लिख सकता है. तो जो स्पीड कंटेस्ट वाले बच्चे होते हैं ना कि हाईली दे कैन राइट वेरी क्विकली वेरी फास्ट, सो स्पीड कंटेस्ट बन जाता है. दैट इज ओपन एंडेड. देन कम्स the essay type restricted response essay question. For example, when I say describe two situations that demonstrate the application of the law of conservation of energy. Two situations. Describe with a neat sketch the working of the carburetor and the cooling system of internal combustion engine. State three main differences between covalent and electrovalent compounds. You can also write the question in the form of some expression. Say, a stone loses its weight when it is immersed in water. Explain two reasons for its apparent weight lost. So this is restricted response essay question, because here we have you see we have restricted the student to the scope of the topic to be discussed, and we have also indicated the form of response in the statement of the question. So such questions encourage good study habits. These can be easily constructed. Scoring becomes objective and provides guidance to the student to the type of answer required. These are highly recommended questions. Disadvantage is that time consuming है. Now coming to short answer question. Okay, short answer question can be in the form of a question. It can be in the form of fill in the blanks. For example, in the form of question, when I say what is the relationship between molecular weight and vapor density? Name one sulfide ore of copper. Name the device that is used in a vacuum cleaner to pump air into the dust bag. 8 is what percentage of 64, like that. Okay, so you can test comprehension ability. Higher mental abilities cannot be tested, easily constructed. Scoring is more objective and ensure coverage of content, but this is not suited for testing of higher abilities. Okay, you can also go for fill in the blanks question under that. Now objective type question. First of all, the true false category, we are giving the statements, and the students are to tick mark either the statement is true or false. So there are specific guidelines of constructing or writing objective type true false items. So this has got advantages. You can cover more content matter. These can be easily constructed. Scoring is objective. Disadvantage is that guessing is involved. Incorrect item may have some undesirable effects. Sometimes the student may opt definite response pattern. Then matching type. You are giving two columns. You are writing the stem at the top that match the items given in column 1 with the corresponding items given in column 2 on the basis of. Basis भी आपको देना है. And column 2 में you can go for more number of responses. Say column 1 में you have written 4 components, but उनके corresponding answer जो हैं, right? सो मान लीजिए प्रिंसिपल है एक तरफ फिनोमेना है, तो प्रिंसिपल को कौन से फिनोमेना के साथ मैच करना, तो फिनोमेना 6 हो सकते हैं, क्योंकि इसमें गेसिंग अगर हमने कम करनी है तो अगर 4 ही रखेंगे, अगर स्टूडेंट को 2 या 3 के बारे में पता है, चौथा अपने आप पता चल जाएगा। सो चौथा सेलेक्ट करने के लिए भी उसके पास जो है 2-3 ऑप्शंस होने चाहिए। So these are used when learning involves association of two things. These are easily constructed. Scoring is objective, guessing is minimum. Only in case of more number of responses. And the disadvantage is that you can measure only the knowledge level, emphasize on memorization of facts. Then multiple choice type question. So one question has got 4 answers. One is key, that is the correct answer. 3 are the distractors, and there are guidelines that the response, the distractor should be plausible one. Means every distractor has an equal probability of being selected by the student if he or she commits some error or uses some wrong formula. Odd man out नहीं होना चाहिए. So there are guidelines. So on Thursday, Mrs. Amandeep Kaur will be talking about the guidelines of writing various types of test items. Then disadvantages that difficult to construct sometimes because 4 आंसर ढूंढने बहुत कई बार मुश्किल होते हैं. Now coming to written test, open book. You see, open books examination allow the student to take notes, textbook or resource material into an examination situation. So they test their ability to find, to find and apply information and knowledge. So are often used in subjects requiring direct reference to written material like law, statutes, statistics, etc. So these can test higher than application abilities, reduce worry and tension of memorizing the formulas, diagrams, and so on. Only disadvantage is that difficult to construct. So it required a lot of effort on the part of teacher to select. Question ऐसा नहीं हो कि भी बच्चे ने अगर एक ही बुक पढ़ी है या एक ही प्रिंसिपल पढ़ा उसके बेसिस पे वो सॉल्व हो जाए. नो नो नो. Problem solving involves application of more than 2-3 principles. So that is why these are difficult. So these questions are suitable for high ability groups and time consuming to high. Then another is skill performance test to evaluate how quickly you can learn a new skill. Okay. Oral questioning you do in the classroom, or you also ask questions orally during the practical examination. Purpose is to test their knowledge. The purpose is to test their communication skill. Okay, the teacher can probe questions, provide opportunity for clarification, etc. Observation technique. These are used while conducting practicals. We want to study the behavior. One is the checklist, where you have formed 2 columns. In one column you have written down various items, and you have to check whether this was present or absent when you are observing the student performance. So basically a list of items required or points to think or the things needed to be done. So easy to construct, simple scoring, used for diagnostic purpose. But the difference, the difficulty or disadvantage is you are not discriminating among students. क्योंकि रेटिंग नहीं है, ओनली प्रेजेंस और एब्सेंस इज ऑफ पर्टिकुलर आइटम इज ऑब्जर्व. इसको ओवरकम करने के लिए वी कैन गो फॉर रेटिंग स्केल, which is a closed-ended survey question used to represent respondent feedback in a comparative form for specific particular feature. Graphic rating scale indicates the answer options on a scale of 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. For example, मैंने आपसे आपको एक बोलता हूँ, प्लीज एक्सप्रेस your level of satisfaction after attending to my demonstration. highly dissatisfied, dissatisfied, neutral, satisfied, highly satisfied. So I can give a rating of 1 to highly dissatisfied, rating of 5 to highly satisfied. Sorry, numerical rating scale. Uh, then we have got self-reported inventories like interest inventories. You want to study the attitude of technical teachers toward teaching profession. You have prepared a questionnaire. You are administering to the teachers to know the attitude, or you want to determine the attitude of your student towards cloud computing. So a lot of information in affected domain can be tested, easily administered scoring. Disadvantage is that sometimes the respondent may not give his or her accurate information. You can get the fake information. Sometimes they can opt for a definite response, जैसे एग्री डिसएग्री है तो एग्री एग्री को टिक लगाते गए. तो इसमें आपको कुछ स्टेटमेंट पॉजिटिव रखनी है, कुछ नेगेटिव रखनी है, सो दैट द स्टूडेंट द रिस्पोंडेंट हैज टू रीड ईच एंड एवरी स्टूडेंट स्टेटमेंट केयरफुली. So we have got aptitude test, numerical reasoning, verbal reasoning, diagrammatic reasoning, logical reasoning, inductive reasoning, error checking test. We have got personality test, leadership test, motivation test, situational judgment. All these are self-report inventories and questionnaire. Another is sociometric techniques. Say your class size is very big and you want to make some group of say 8 to 10 students. Okay, so how to form group accurately? So the members of each group may be numbered from 1 to 10, and you can ask each member to write the name or the number of a student with whom he likes most to work or to play or to sit, etc. Say student number 9 is liked by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students. Student number 7 is liked by 1, 2, 3 students. Student number 8 is liked by only 2 students. So the advantage is that it will help you in grouping the student. You can improve individual students adjustment in the classroom. Classroom becomes conducive to learning, simple to use. Disadvantage is that sometimes the student may hide their real choices. So now I end up here and I open this session to all of you for your queries, for your any question. You are welcome. So any question, please?
Sir, we have one question.
हाँ जी.
Sir, regarding is there some guidelines for the sitting plan of students also? Like sometimes when we have seen is when we are giving objective type questions to the students. So when students are sitting roll number wise, what happens is that for the whole class in which they are sitting, they are getting same marks for objective type questions.
So what you can do is you can make 4 forms of question paper. Questions will remain the same, but they are jumbled. So A, B, C, and D. Just like in competitive exams, there are 4 forms of a question paper. So हम 10 की लाइन बनाते हैं, एक रो में 10 स्टूडेंट्स विल सिट. तो पहले को A दिया, दूसरे को B दिया, थर्ड को C दिया, फोर्थ को D दिया, फिर फिफ्थ को A एंड सो ऑन. तो नेक्स्ट रो में जो आएगा वो फिर जो है वो उस जो बच्चा पीछे बैठा है या उसके साइड में बैठा है, उनकी जो क्वेश्चन फॉर्म है वो सेम नहीं होगा. क्वेश्चंस आर सेम लेकिन उनको जंबल किया गया है.
सर यूनिवर्सिटी एग्जाम्स में या सेशनल एग्जाम्स में तो बहुत डिफिकल्ट है सर वो कराना.
तो उसके लिए फिर ये आप कर सकते हो कि जैसे मान लीजिए फर्स्ट बच्चा जो है आपने से केमिस्ट्री का पेपर अपीयर कर रहा है, सेकंड उसके पीछे वाला बच्चा जो है वो किसी और सब्जेक्ट में अपीयर हो रहा हो, तो वो हम करते हैं. फिर थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट होगा क्वेश्चन पेपर एडमिनिस्टर करना और आंसर शीट कलेक्ट करने में, बट यू कैन डू इट.
ठीक है सर. Thank
you. So okay, now it is 12:51. So we break for lunch, and after lunch we have session by our eminent speaker and former professor Dr. P.K. Tulsi from this institute. So she will be talking about writing learning outcome, and this is very much required from NBA requirement, NBA point of view also. So please, I request all the participating teachers to join by 2:15 so that we can start the session exactly at 2:30. मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है ताकि भी एक्सपर्ट को ज़्यादा डिले नहीं करना पड़े. So kindly be punctual, and we are going to give you handout, soft copies. We will provide you soft copies on the last day. All the soft copies we will collect from the different speakers, and then we'll send to you. We'll upload in the institute portal. So thank you. We break for lunch.